music is Insatiable by the Violet Hour. You can find the Violet Hour online at theviolethourband.com. This is the Fort Fights podcast on blogtalkradio.com, brought to you by todayinfortsmith.com, presented by Soar Hell Entertainment, and sponsored by Southern Trading and Pawn, located at 4621 Towson Avenue in Fort Smith, right at the corner of Towson and Phoenix. It's usually where all the wrecks happen. And if you like their page on Facebook, go to facebook.com, type in your search bar, Southern Trading and Pawn. Maybe you'll see some pictures of some of those wrecks sometimes. But it's hard to miss the corner of Towson and Phoenix. It's huge. You can see the new sushi place there in the old Subway joint. You can see the new Subway joint from there. You could see the remnants of the old Phoenix Village and whatever they've got going on in that little place now. Southern Trading and Pawn, right there at the corner, 4621. Go see Vernon and the Pawn Shop Quartet, or call them at 479-434-4830. That's where you can find them. My name is Clint Davis, and a lot of you know we used to do this a lot. In fact, we used to do this twice a week. We used to talk MMA on XFI Live. We used to talk about Extreme Fighting Inc. But we haven't done that for 3 years. This is the first time the MMA podcast has been back in 3 years. I finally had enough people hound me about it and say, dude, you got to bring the podcast back. MMA is coming back to Fort Smith. You got to do, and I know in that 3 years there were some other events. I just kind of faded off with MMA, got a little bit burned out, and so I didn't do much. And then after a while, people started coming back and saying, man, you got to bring the show back. A lot of people know the numbers. We used to, on 2 shows a week, the show averaged 1,100 listeners a week. That was the average. We had some great shows. There were interviews with fighters that we had on. Some of you know that those interviews were absolutely explosive. And that's kind of what people like to listen to. We're going to talk to a couple of guys today. We're going to talk to Michael Priest and Jeremy Green. We are going to have both of them on the show, but we're not going to have them on at the same time because, well, I'll let them tell you why. I'm not going to blow it for you right here, right now. But we're not talking about XFI anymore. What we're talking about, and I mentioned this a second ago, presented by Soar Hell Entertainment. That's what we're doing now. Soar Hell Entertainment is bringing the MMA back to Fort Smith. In fact, they just had, let me squirrel up here on their page, they just had the River Valley Jiu-Jitsu Rumble on November 18th. We saw names like Will Walker, Zach Jones, Jory Johnson, Jake Constant, Tyler Jones, Chase Smith, Alex Stevens, Travis Smith, Kylie Troutman. There were all kinds of names that we saw on this thing. That was November 18th at 1105 Wheeler Avenue. A lot of you guys know about Family Combat Fitness, Brian Foster and the gang out there. It doesn't get much better than that. And, in fact, we had Brian Foster was on a couple of shows that we did, a couple of MMA podcasts in the past. Maybe we can get him on again. I know I've been talking with Aaron Cobb. We're going to try to get him on to talk about Soar as Hell a little bit. I've been doing a little bit of talking with the promoter here. And as always on the podcasts, I never know if I can get away with revealing the promoter's name to the masses, so I'm not going to do that. We're going to keep him or her under wraps. A lot of you probably already know who I'm talking about, and that's fine. This person is just about as stand-up of a person as it gets, which is why I have no problem, just like before, talking about MMA, talking about these events. Go to soarashell.com, and you can see all this stuff. Now, on todayinfortsmith.com, that's who's putting this podcast on. That's who's footing the bill for this. A lot of you guys know Today in Fort Smith is the fastest-growing news media source in the River Valley. And so that's who is responsible for this mess. todayinfortsmith.com. Go there. Or on Facebook, you can type in Today in Fort Smith, or we're at Today in FS on Facebook, and you can find us there. But go to soarashell.com, and there are all kinds of things. The first thing we're going to talk about here is there's a Veterans Benefit Concert. Now, we've got Brooke White and The Ritual coming out. Also, 357 is going to be there. I don't know if there's going to be any other names. I haven't really gotten down to the dirt about the Veterans Benefit Concert. I think I'm a veteran. You guys know that. So I think it's a great cause. I don't think there's any better cause in the United States of America than to do something for veterans who deserve it. So we've got the Veterans Benefit Concert. That's going to be on Friday night, December 15th in the year of 2017. That's the one we're currently in for those of you who may be half asleep at the wheel. That's going to be out at the Fort Smith Convention Center. Doors open to that at 6:30. I got you, Jeremy. We're good, man. I see you. I see you, Jeremy Green. We've already Jeremy Green's already chomping at the bit. We've already got Jeremy Green. He's in my switchboard over here. We're going to talk to him here in just a little bit, and so we're gonna waste absolutely no time. But I do want to tell you, for the Veterans Benefit Concert at the Fort Smith Convention Center, December 15th. That is a Friday. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. The concert will start at 7. Now, if you need tickets, you can either go to todayinfortsmith.com, click on the events page. There you will see the posters for all this stuff. You can click on the poster. That will route you straight to the tickets page on soarashell.com. That will take you straight to the page. You can pay for them with your debit cards, MasterCard, Visa, whatever type of Big Brother stuff you have out there that makes you get tracked by the government. I'm just kidding. But you can pay online for your tickets. Now, if you're like me, you love shopping online. That's the only way I buy anything is online. I don't hand over cash for anything, mainly because I don't ever have cash on me. So if you want to rob me, you're going to kill me for free. So this is going to be, if you need tickets, you can call 479-653-8554, or you can call 479-251-0808, or visit soarashell.com. That concert is sponsored by Ward Brothers Roofing, Family Combat Fitness, and MMA. You got your Shriner Insurance Agency, Metro PCS, and T-Mobile. Old Ford Harley Davidson, come get you some off-road and performance. Kevin Clifton Real Estate, your local market experts. And Saki Sushi and Martini Bar. And I think we've got River Valley CrossFit down there, too. And we're going to see some of the same names when we scroll down, because we're talking about Fort Smith Fight Night. That is on Saturday, the night following the big Veterans Benefit Concert. We're going to have Fort Smith Fight Night. I'm looking at the poster right in front of me. I've got some faces on here that I really recognize, some guys that I've talked to on the podcast before. I believe I see DeMario Cade. I believe I see Tyler Jones. I also see a few ladies. The ladies. They're up there at the top of the poster. It's a great looking poster. It's real flashy. It's not too much info. Fort Smith Fight Night, December 16th at the Fort Smith Convention Center. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. Fights begin at 7 p.m. General admission is $30. Ringside is $50. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't know if VIP tables are still available. I have no idea. As far as I understand, VIP tables are just about sold out. So here's the deal. Here's the dealio. If you want tickets, if you want to get the VIP tables, which is what I recommend, because you have no idea what an MMA event is like until you've got a VIP seat. It's better than cage side. It doesn't get any better than that. Much better than general admission, although you're going to get one hell of a show with a general admission ticket. If you want a VIP table, get on soarashell.com. I don't see phone numbers on this poster. They could possibly see we could possibly see the same phone numbers for the ones above. I'm not going to guarantee that because I would think if it's the same, then maybe they would have put that there. So I don't want you calling the wrong people for tickets, but get back on soarashell.com. Scroll down to where you see Fort Smith Fight Night, and there's a huge button there that says Buy Tickets. I'm going to click that while we're on the show. I'm going to wait for that to load underneath my Skype button that will not disappear. That's how we've called in. So here we've got this Fort Smith Fight Night, December 16th. Once again, I see the ladies. And so anyway, I'm waiting for the page to load up. It looks like that's going to take a while. That's what I get for trusting my own interwebs here. But a lot of you have seen with the Fort Smith Fight Night coming our way, the Fort Fights podcast, that's who we are. We're going to bring you local MMA coverage back to the River Valley. So not only do you get MMA, local MMA, back in Fort Smith, you're also going to get the coverage back in Fort Smith. We're promoting this heavily on todayinfortsmith.com. We're going to be running this podcast. I'm not going to guarantee you 2 shows a week. I'm not going to guarantee you 1 show a week. I'm not going to guarantee you 100 shows a week. Theoretically, we've got about 17 days left until this event happens. So theoretically, we could run 17 shows. That's just how we can do things. And I just got an alert from my fantasy football. DeAndre Hopkins is injured. I'm not going to worry about that. So we could do 17 shows theoretically up until this event. We could even do a podcast the night of. Here's what it's going to take, guys, and you guys know this. I'm not going to chase people down. Now, when I did XFI Live, I practically had to chase down fighters to promote themselves. I'm not doing that this time around, okay? And I'm not saying that to be mean. What I'm saying that for is this. If you don't take time to invest in yourself and your craft and what you do, if you don't take time to promote you, and I'm not going to either, okay? But if you're a fighter and you're listening to this, whether it's live, whether it's playback here in a little bit, if you want to take the time and the initiative to invest in yourself and to tell the community who you are and what you do, that way you make sure that somebody buys a ticket to come out and see you, like Jeremy Green. Jeremy Green is in my switchboard right now. Somebody may buy a ticket and say, I'm buying this ticket because I want to see Jeremy Green on the fight card. I want to see Jeremy Green in the cage. I want to see him fight. Now, you don't want to be known as Bathroom Break Bobby, okay? If you're not promoting yourself and you're not nobody's buying tickets because of you, they're probably going to go take a leak when you get in the cage. That's just the way things go. I've done it before. I've said, I don't know who this person is. I'm not going to miss anything. And then it turned out I missed a great fight because somebody didn't promote themselves the right way. So reach out to me. I'm all over the place. You can find me on Facebook. Just type in Clint Davis. Click on the page with the guy smiling. Send me a message and say, I want to be on the show. And I will handle it from there, people. I will handle it from there. This is the easiest, smoothest process you've ever had to promote yourself. It's absolutely free. You don't have to lift a finger except hit the beep, boop, bop, boop, beep, boop, boop on your phone and give me a call, and we'll talk about things. That's exactly what we'll do. So I'm going to reiterate just one more time, the Fort Smith Convention Center, December 16th. Doors open 6:30 p.m. The fights begin at 7 p.m. Local fighters Michael Priest and Jeremy Green are two guys on the fight card. They're set to square off that night. So tonight they have agreed to come to the podcast and talk a little bit about their lives, a little bit about what's going on since the last time I talked to them. Like I mentioned, it's been 3 years since I've even said hey to these guys until, well, not Michael Priest. I usually talk to Michael Priest all the time. I love his family. He's got a great mother who has always pushed him to excel, and she's a great lady. I don't know if you guys know Michael's mom, but she's a wonderful lady. I don't know much about Jeremy's family, but I do know about Jeremy. Jeremy and I talked this afternoon, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bring Jeremy on. He's sitting over here. Jeremy, are you with us?
Yes, sir.
Hey, Jeremy Green. All right, so look, I'm going to get down to basics here, and I don't know much about anything, but I'm just going to say I know you used to train down Highway 71 quite a ways, and there was a little bit of a shakeup in life. And so tell us a little bit about where you're training now and where you're going with your MMA career.
Oh, well, now I'm training at Ricardo Cavalcanti Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu here in Fort Smith, 9705 Rogers Avenue, for those of you who do not know.
Excellent.
It's as you can probably figure out by the name, it's a jiu-jitsu school mainly, but we also have the coaches from Team Ronin, Rodney Hitchcock and Sifu Rodney Hitchcock, I should say, and
Sifu.
Zane Isaacs. They teach here as well. And I've been with those guys for, the whole time I've been training. I mean, I started with Zane, and, I just kind of carried on, kept going with this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great group to be with, I know, and especially Zane and Rodney. It doesn't get much better than those two guys, and I've seen a little bit about Rodney overseas. He's been overseas doing a lot, just a ton of work that this guy's doing, and so, always a very respectable guy and respectful guy, and the same with Zane, too. I like Zane. Zane always brings a lot to the table, even when it comes to intelligent conversation. I like his style. In fact, I've been harping on other websites on Facebook. I've been giving the city a hard time about this Marshall's Museum, and I just looked on Facebook earlier, and somebody was talking about this new toll road that's going in north. It runs north and south, and Zane, the first thing Zane said on there was, this should go in right after the Marshals Museum gets built. So, yeah, I like Zane's style. We've always kind of been on the same page about stuff like that, and I'm glad you're with these guys. So you're with Colin Bobrink. You're with Coach Bobrink. A lot of people know. Everybody knows that name. I've talked to Colin on the show a bunch of times, on the previous show a bunch of times, and he's always done a lot around here coaching. In fact, he even coached kids for a long time. He coached out at Southside for a little bit. And so tell me a little bit about this gym, about what they do and about what their philosophy and the discipline that you guys learn out there, and tell me what's going on.
Well, Colin is he's a very experienced Muay Thai kickboxer, as well as a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt under Ricardo Cavalcante himself. And so he decided to open up this gym to kind of give people, an outlet to learn and better themselves and learn to defend themselves, His big thing with the kids' jiu-jitsu classes is anti-bullying, He really tries to drive that home,
Yeah.
Because, who wants their kid to be bullied? Nobody.
Well, and Colin's got two small children of his own too that he has to worry about now, and obviously now he's doing life as a single parent. We all know that he lost his wife some time ago, and so I can understand why he's doing that, and that's great to instill in these kids. It's great that he's doing those classes.
Oh yeah, definitely. But we also, jiu-jitsu. We don't do jiu-jitsu just for kids. We also do it for adults as well. We offer mixed martial arts classes, which is actually in about 40 minutes. I'll have to get off here. I don't think I'll be on here that long, but I got some training to do tonight too. We also offer Fight Fit for those of you who just want to get in shape. But yeah,
awesome.
I'm really glad Colin decided to open this place up. I've been with Colin for a long time. Well, he kind of stopped training for a while when he was down at Spike 22, and then he opened this place up, and I got back with him because I remember training with him down there, and he always helped me out. He pushed me to my limits, and beyond.
Yeah. So, we used to see you with XFI. Tell me a little bit about, because everybody's just now getting to know Sore as Hell. And for me, I know I am too as a spectator, because like I said, I've been away from the MMA game for about 3 years, and I didn't even know what Sore as Hell was until somebody said, hey, man, we got some fights coming up. I was like, what the hell is Sore as Hell? And so tell me a little bit about the transition. We used to see you with XFI. Now there's Sore as Hell coming up. So tell me about the transition to going in and fighting with these guys. And tell me a little bit about this company.
Well, I'm honest to God. I was kind of confused when XFI. It seemed like XFI just dropped off the map. I had no idea where they went. Of course, it'd been 4 years. I think I stopped fighting a year before they stopped doing fights. So it's been about 4 years. I had my first fight back in October. Last month, actually. I had my first fight back in 4 years last month, and up in Branson. And I was kind of hoping to be coming back for like a local show for my first fight back, but XFI kind of dropped off the map. And then I hear about this Sore as Hell fight coming up, this Sore as Hell Entertainment, and I don't know much about the people who run it. I don't know. Other than the name of the promotion, I don't know much about it at all, but I'm excited that they're coming to Fort Smith, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
So now you see why I have jumped on board.
Team.
That's true, and now you guys, and probably everybody listening, can now understand why I've jumped on board to help promote this thing. Because MMA, local MMA, I don't know if people understand how this works, but people have got to support local MMA. It's not, a lot of people think, it's another tough man contest. No, it's not. It's got nothing to do with that. It's not a bunch of people who think that they're great and they just, some people do, but it's for the most part, it's not about people who think that they're great and they just want to get on the cage and strap on some gloves and think that they're going to beat everybody up. There are a couple of people like that. I won't name them right now because I'm not going to waste my time on them, but we all know who they are. But MMA is totally different. These are craft and skill sports that, you have got to train for this stuff for a long time to know what you're doing and to be able to get in a cage. So how did your show fight go up there?
My first fight back in 4 years, I was kind of nervous. I was going against a state champion high school wrestler. And, I mean, ain't nothing I ain't ever handled before because I trained with Colin, and Colin was a wrestler in school too. So, and he even taught wrestling down at Southside. So I wasn't worried about what this guy could throw at me. It's just I went all 3 rounds with the guy, got several submission attempts, punched him in the face quite a bit from my back, ended up winning by unanimous decision.
Nice.
I think it was I think the cage rest got to me. I think I threw 5 punches standing up the whole fight. So
wow. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some
of
the pictures in it. Yeah, and it looked like you spent a little bit of time on your back, but I'm glad that you're back in the game here. And now, speaking of another fight, you've got another fight coming up in 17 days. You're fighting Michael Priest. Now, for those who don't know, who are listening to this, and we've got a ton of live listeners right now, by the way, and I'm surprised we don't have more people. Well, I know we're not going to have more people calling in because I didn't read off the call-in number. But we've got a ton of people listening live, so I know they're going to say, well, what's this history here? Do y'all hate each other? Is there something going on? You and Michael Priest used to train together. Tell us a little bit about that.
We used to train together down at Spike 22, and that was back when I started training. I don't know. I don't think he actually trained at Spike 22 when I started down there. I don't quite remember, actually. God, that's been years ago.
It's been a long time. You start getting to that age where you're like, holy shit. I mean, how long has it been now?
Yeah, well, God, man. I think it was 2011 when I started training. Yeah, 2011. But anyway, Priest was always kind of one of those guys I always kind of competed with. It was like, even when we trained together, I was a part of a different team, but I trained in the same building. So there was kind of this unspoken agreement that Spike 22, or I think it was, at the time, it was Extreme Pain, the name of the team. We had kind of had this unspoken agreement that Team Ronin and Extreme Pain wouldn't fight each other, So we ended up becoming training partners. But he always had this, he'd been in it longer than me, so I always had this kind of urge to compete with him. Not because I thought he was better than me, but because, he'd been doing it longer and I had something to aspire to, And, Priest is a great friend of mine, and we got to talking one day not too long ago, and I was like, Michael, I've always wanted to fight you. And he was like, why is that? And I was like, because I think it would be an awesome show. And nobody wants to see 2 people, just roll around on the ground for, however long the rounds are, Nobody wants to see a fight go on like that. That's boring. Unless you're, like watching the technicalities of it. But, when it comes down to it, the mass public like watching 2 dudes beat the crap out of each other. And I can tell you, me and Priest are going to beat the crap out of each other.
I believe it. I believe it's going to be exciting. I know what you're both capable of, and I think it's going to be a great fight. You can go back and looking at, how things went with Show Fight. It's a lot of people don't think somebody can win their fight on their back, but it is absolutely possible. Anybody who knows and watches UFC, I've seen more people win a fight on their back than I can probably shake a stick at. But if anybody is going to count somebody out just because they're going against a wrestler or going against this or going against that, they're out of their minds. But, Michael Priest, I've seen that guy win a fight with a guillotine choke in, just less than a minute. And, so I know he can finish fights.
Oh, man, so he's got heart too, man.
Yeah, he does, and that's why they call him the Beast. And so based on what you know about training with him in the past and what you know about what he's capable of, without giving too much away, what's been your strategy going into this training camp?
Yeah, I just kind of, it's always been like, I've never really spoken what I'm getting ready for with him. Like, I've never really said it, so it's always been like a mental thing for me, because we know what each other does. There's no reason necessarily a reason to speak it, you know. I mean, we kind of got each other felt out already. We know the feeling out process. So, I mean, I have backup plans for if he does this, or, you know, like plan Bs if he does this. You know, it's just
well, and that's what I was going to ask. Is it more of a physical thing, or is it more of a mental thing? And you answered that. You answered that question. It's more of a mental thing, and I certainly understand that. I've heard that so many times interviewing fighters in the past, and you know, so I didn't want you to give away any physical strategies or anything, but yeah, I mean it's absolutely a mental game, and I don't know if you've got what I have access to, which is footage of fights from the past, but you know, there's things like that you can go back and you can look at, and you can learn people's strengths and weaknesses, and really kind of get a really fresh reminder of how they do business in the cage. So yeah, I don't know if you've watched any of that. And
I have, believe me. That's just part of the preparation, you know. You want to dig through and find out as much as you can. I mean, I've seen almost all of his fights live. I've been at almost every single one of his fights. So it's not, you know, I mean, I watched the guy. I trained with him, so naturally I was going to go and support him. But the thing, his heart is what gets me, you know. And I feel I have heart too when it comes to the fight. You know,
yeah.
Like somebody gets me in a guillotine, holds it. If it ain't choking me, I'm going to hold out in that thing until you decide to let it go. You know, I'm just going to sit there until your arm gets tired. There's no point in, you know. Priest, his last fight in particular, the last fight I remember seeing, he was taking a beating. Like, he was getting whooped. And then out of nowhere, he pulls out an arm bar, just out of nowhere. Don't know where it came from, pulls out an arm bar and beats the guy. I was just like, what? But that's
the thing about Priest. You know, he's tough and he can take a lick. So it's nothing, and I've seen it too. It's nothing for Michael Priest to take a licking from somebody and wait until they gas themselves, and that way he could pull something out of his back pocket like the arm bar or like the guillotine or something like that. So, I mean, you know, there's obviously there's submission strategy in there somewhere. We don't know if that'll play a part. That's why we play the game. That's why we have these fights. So, I mean, I'm excited, man. Now, what are you doing later on this day? I know you said you've got to get to some training. So, what do you got planned for the evening?
I got the MMA class down here at the gym with Zane tonight. Zane's coming in.
Okay.
Going to be hitting some pads, doing some stuff. You know, not too heavy work, and definitely not too heavy sparring because we're too close to the fight for me to hurt anything right now. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's been an everyday thing. You know.
What weight are you guys fighting at?
Originally, we were slated for 155, but it has since been moved up to 170 for reasons I care not to mention. But if you want to know,
I mean,
if you want to know,
did this have anything to do with Thanksgiving dinner?
Well, and what it was, I mean, and I respect Michael Priest for doing it. I respect Michael Priest for coming to me and asking, and I hate saying this out loud because I told myself I wasn't going to mention the weight, but you asked, and damn it, you're just so easy to talk to, Clint. It's just like,
man, I apologize. That's how I ended up married so many times, you know? Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Words just fly out of the mouth. Anyway, now, he has some personal stuff going on and a lot of emotional stress and stuff like that, and I definitely understand where he's coming from when it comes to certain things, so he respectfully asked if we can move the fight up to 170, and me being me and me wanting to fight Priest as long as I've been wanting to fight him, definitely. I told him, yeah, there ain't no chance I'd turn it down.
That's what makes this a perfect fight. I mean, a story like that, and, you know, you guys have such a history together, and I know that there is a respect level there. We've talked about it. I know Michael Priest is going to talk about it here in a little bit. I know it's going to come up. But, you know, it's awesome for a fighter to do that because a lot of fighters, you know, we see them. A lot of them are assholes, and they're going to say, well, I'm not fighting unless you meet me at this and blah, blah, blah. And you guys, you know, look, I mean, I'm going to say it too, and I haven't said this to anybody, but besides David Keel, if there's anybody out there who has gone through life changes and taking them like a champ, it's Michael Priest. And I don't know if we'll get into any of those coming up. Probably we're going to try to stay out of that because it's a very sensitive subject. But obviously it is playing a part in his fight strategy. It's playing a part in his life, and it's going to. He and I had to talk about this the other day, and I'll probably talk to him about that here in just a little bit. But I pat you on the back for meeting him at a weight that you guys can fight at comfortably. Also, the promoters, Soars Hell Entertainment, for putting this thing on at a weight like that you guys can both meet in the middle and say, look, one way or another, we're going to do this. And so here's the deal, man. You know how I do things on the show. I'm going to let you get back to training for the evening, but before I cut you loose, and I know you already plugged the gym once, so I'm hoping I hear it again. Are there any shout-outs you want to give anybody, friends, fans, family, anybody that you want to say anything to before we let you go?
Well, I don't even know if anybody I know is listening. You know, I mean, that's one of the.
I can almost bet they are right now. We've got 176 live listeners.
Well, I guess shout out to my mom and dad. Thanks for giving birth to me. That's obvious. But shout out to my little brother Michael. I hope you're listening. Shout out to my older brother. Shout out to my girlfriend Elena. Anyway, I guess that's it. I don't have very many people that are extremely, extremely important to me in my life, except my entire team, who there are too many to mention. But one more time, Ricardo Cavalcanti, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 9705 Rogers Avenue. Thank you very much.
9705 Rogers Avenue. That is, it's great. I'm glad you came on for this. Jeremy Green, we appreciate your time. I tell Coach Bobrink we appreciate the time that he's let you take off for this and before you get back to training and all that stuff. And Zane, tell all those guys, and Sifu, Rodney, and tell all those guys we said hey. And we're probably going to see you guys at the fight. I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you, Clint. Thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing right now.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. And I'll do this absolutely anytime. So I understand if you've got to go. I'm just going to mute your line. That way, if you need to stay on, I'll let you stay on. But if not, we will see you on December 16th.
All right, man. Peace.
All right, dude. That is Jeremy Green, ladies and gentlemen. He is he's going to be fighting, clearly. I mean, we just talked about it and promoted it, and apparently my button's not working for some reason. I'm going to have to make sure my buttons are working. Yeah, that's the beauty of a live show, people. So we're going to go ahead and fade out of that one. And now, what we're going to do is I know I just mentioned it, but December 16th, that's going to be Fort Smith Convention Center. That is Fort Smith Fight Night. That's where we got the fights coming up. It's going to be a beautiful thing. It's been a while since we've seen MMA in the River Valley, and Soars Hell Entertainment is bringing the fights back to Fort Smith, Arkansas. We're talking about Soars Hell Entertainment at SoarsHell.com. This is the Fort Fights podcast. We're doing this on todayinfortsmith.com. We're on blogtalkradio.com. So many things have developed. And I don't know if anybody, look, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I need to thank somebody for making so many of these things possible for me. I want to thank my ex-wife, who has gone on nothing but a psychotic tirade to ruin everything I do. I have got to thank her for the opportunities that I've got right now, because if she didn't constantly meddle in my life and try to call people and try to turn everybody against me and blah, 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 and everybody knows the strategy. It's the same song and dance as it's always been for 6 years, ever since I packed up and left her. If she wasn't pulling this stuff, these doors wouldn't be open for me. And so I want to thank her. I can't say her name because she'll run to the cops and try to have me arrested. That's her game. So I can't say her name, but we all know who she is. She's about as nuts as she can possibly be. And if anybody ever wonders why I packed up and left, this is why. So I just want to thank her for all the opportunities that I've got right now, because if she wasn't so obsessed with every move I make, man, I wouldn't have these opportunities. Todayinfortsmith.com wouldn't have come knocking on my front door, and wouldn't be doing the MMA podcast again. I wouldn't be broadcasting high school sports in certain areas, and so I mean it's great. It's great. I'm just glad that I could see all these opportunities come to fruition here. So, having said that, man, it feels so good to get that off my chest. I appreciate so many people, but that crazy bird is number one. So we're talking about the Fort Smith Fight Night. I'm going to run through that again. If you've been on since the beginning of the show, I'm probably going to have an arrest warrant for that. If you listened since the beginning of the show, you heard music by the Violet Hour. You can go to theviolethourband.com. In fact, I just got a big thumbs up from the owner, from the man who runs todayinfortsmith.com, and I'm going to keep his name under wraps too, but I did get a gigantic thumbs up. I know he loves it when I appreciate people. He loves it when I give people credit where it's due, and so that's what we do. Now, you can go listen to songs like Insatiable by the Violet Hour. You can find them at theviolethourband.com. You heard their music at the front of the show, and you'll also hear a little bit more of their music at the end of the show. And so, as always, the Fort Fights podcast is on blogtalkradio.com, brought to you by todayinfortsmith.com, presented by Sore as Hell Entertainment, and sponsored by Southern Trading and Pawn, located at 4621 Towson Avenue in Fort Smith at the corner of Towson and Phoenix. Go see Vernon and the crew and the Pawn Shop Quartet, or call them at 479-434-4830. Source Hell Entertainment. There is a Veterans Benefit Concert coming up. We've got all the information about that. We just talked about that a second ago. I'm still on the ticket page for Fort Smith Fight Night, but I'm going to click the back button. I'm on soreashell.com. Type that into your web browser. That's where you can find all this information that I'm talking to you about. Or you can go to todayinfortsmith.com and click on the events page. Getting some more feedback in. I mean, dude, we've got to tell, we have 218 people listening live. Who the hell listens to an MMA podcast on a Wednesday night? Get real, people. I've got so many people saying, nobody's going to listen to you. Clint Davis, you suck. Yeah, apparently. Todayinfortsmith.com is Dennis McCaslin. If you want to, todayinfortsmith@gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of Dennis McCaslin, that's where you can do it. He's got his phone number posted on the site. If you've got anything to say, if you got any kind of beef at all, Dennis McCaslin. I don't know if many people know this, but Dennis and I have known each other for a lot of years. In fact, he and I went to the Fort Smith airport together to pick up Hacksaw Jim Duggan on a Saturday morning when he came for a TCW event in Fort Smith. We picked up Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Disco Inferno, Titan, Chris Cruz, some guys like that. And yeah, I mean, how many people can say that they went to the airport and picked up the very first winner of the Royal Rumble back in 1988? I did. I didn't pick him up in 88. That's just when the first Royal Rumble was. But that's Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Dennis McCaslin and I went out to the Fort Smith airport and got that guy. We've got stories like that. There's a lot of stories like that. And I'm sure we'll get more into those later. Now, here's what I want to do. I want to remind you about the Veterans Benefit Concert first on Friday, December 15th. At the Fort Smith Convention Center. Doors open at 6:30. The concert begins at 7. For tickets, call 479-653-8554 or 479-251-0808. And I do have to mention again, I already mentioned one, but I want to mention one of these sponsors, Kevin Clifton Real Estate. Kevin Clifton Real Estate. They are your local market experts, and they are one of the sponsors of the Veterans Benefit Concert. And if you don't call one of those phone numbers, visit soreashell.com. Spell it like you say it, folks. And some people on Facebook have a problem with that. But soreashell.com. Now, I've got somebody else in my switchboard, and just by looking at the number that we talked about before this all went down, I believe it's Michael Priest. I'm hoping it's Michael Priest. I'm going to try to click my buttons that don't work and get him on the line. Michael Priest, is it Christmas time yet?
Oh, it feels like it. It's getting close.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the Beast, Michael Priest, is on the Fort Fights podcast. And, Michael, how you been doing, man? I know you've heard some of this. You've heard some of what we've talked about. And Jeremy Green just got off the show. And, we talked about some things. And what's going on with you?
Oh, man, this year has been pretty crazy for me. But I've been more focused than ever on this fight. I couldn't be happier to have it. I wouldn't have had my comeback fight be with anybody else. Me and him, we started out together down on Spike 22, and he was on Ronin, and then we kind of migrated to Showdown and Ronin, and then once that place kind of split, he went one way, I went the other. About a month later, Aaron Cobb gets a hold of me and says, "Hey, do you want to fight Jeremy Green?" I said, "Absolutely." So I couldn't be happier.
Now, I saw Sammy Rogers is also – look, man, I'm just going to say, man, I don't know how you guys do this. 2017 has been one jacked-up year for a lot of you guys. A lot of you guys know Sammy Rogers lost one of his children. It's been terrible. And the only reason why I'm talking about that is because it's on his promo video. And I don't think you'd have a problem with me saying that. But we've seen you and the things that you've gone through, and we all know. We've looked at todayinfortsmith.com. We've seen mugshots. You're not in them, but you're not in them. But somebody who clearly has affected your life in a lot of ways has been in them, and it's been a crazy ride. Sammy's had a crazy ride. 2017 is this has been the most screwed up year I think I've ever seen in my life. It's the year that so many people decided to become victims, and certain people turned themselves into hashtags. I will never understand all that. It's been a crazy year. A lot of people have gone through so many things, and people have experienced deaths in their families, and their families have been flipped completely upside down. Now, how old are you now, Michael? Michael, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, how old are you now?
I'm 22.
Okay, so at 22, did you ever think you would be a divorced single father of two?
No, but when I was 17, I didn't think I'd be married with a house and a car and a kid. So I kind of had to grow up a little early.
So, I mean, you've absolutely grown up way earlier than most of us. I mean, when I was 19, that's when I went to the Navy, and that was all about smoking and joking. Well, not all. I mean, there were some things that, but anyway. That was a crazy time when I was around that age, and 22 is about the time that I got out, and it was just a wild ride. So I can't imagine being that age again. I can't imagine being a single father of two. Man, I mean, it's ridiculous. So let me ask you something. How have you balanced all of this and gotten back? Because what I was going to say a minute ago is on Sammy's. One of his statuses that he shared from Sore as Hell Entertainment is one of the promo posters, the fight posters. Someone had started, I can't even remember who it was right now, but somebody started in with, Michael Priest doesn't train, he never trains, he's never trained in his life, blah, 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 I'm just a internet ninja shit talker. Kind of, we see that all the time. So,
I don't believe that I've ever shit talked in my life, but no, I've been training every day, 3 hours a day. I don't know who would have said that. Obviously, they haven't been to the gym. No, my mom has been a great help. She takes care of the kids while I'm at the gym. She's been a great support system for me. She's pretty much the only one I got. My dad helps out when he can, but my mom, she's a stay-at-home. Basically, she's a stay-at-home mom. So, I'm working overtime in a factory, and then once I get out of there, I go straight to the gym over at Showdown MMA on US 71. I train with Chance Farley, Colton Ham, Sammy Rogers, DeMario Cade, Tyler Jones, all those guys, and they've been helping me out tremendously in my fight game. So.
And I want to give a shout-out to Colton Ham. I call him honey glazed with the pineapple slices ham. But Colton is one of those kids. I like Colton. I like his style. He's also a father, and I respect the hell out of Colton for that. And I want to talk to him here one of these days on this show. Does he have a fight coming up on December 16th, or is he fighting elsewhere?
I think he's fighting in January for a show fight.
Okay.
I think.
Okay, and that's the guys up in Branson.
Yeah.
I know that now Greg Squirrel and myself, we go way back with the show fight guys. We had a huge blow up. With the promoter up there one time. There's a little bit of home cooking that went on when Megan Goodwin fought up there. And but she came home with the title anyway. They did about everything they could to make sure she didn't, but she did. And so now we're going to, I guess Colton's going to go up there. But I don't know, Colton may be one of the 263 people now who are listening live. So if that's the case, Colton, we're going to have you on the podcast and talk about your fight coming up. But, Michael, what I want to talk to you about is obviously we've seen you transition. I've seen a ton of people leaving Spike 22. Don't really blame them. But we've seen you go from there, and now you're down with the Showdown guys. And so how did this come about? Who approached you about fighting on December 16th? And did you know anything about this Sore as Hell promotion?
I didn't until I can't remember who shared it. Somebody shared a post. I think it was Brian Foster, actually. And it said that, MMA was back in Fort Smith. So I immediately, messaged Cobb, hey, I want on the card. And then I can't remember. They said that they were working on a fight for me. But then, whenever our gym split up into two, Jeremy Green popped up on that list. So we weren't training together anymore. So that's who I got.
Yeah, so you talked to Aaron Cobb, and obviously, we know Aaron Cobb and I go back to the Cub Scout days. I mean, we've known each other since we were 5 years old, but in fact, my mom was our den leader, if that tells you how far back we go. But, Cobb and I worked together with XFI, and I really miss XFI, the relationship I had with the Barrel family. I love those two, and I miss them a lot. And we used to do a lot of things together. And obviously Aaron Cobb was our fight card guy for XFI. And so we know that Aaron Cobb has quite a history with this, and we know that he doesn't put on shit shows. I mean, he works closely with the coaches and trainers and the guys who run the gyms, and that's where he finds people for fights. Now, were you able to talk to him before he talked to your guys about it, or how did this come about? You just shot him a message and said, "Put me on the card"?
Yeah, I talked to him, and then he messaged me back with the name.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't. And then and then I went down to Showdown, and then told them. They offered me Jeremy Green.
That's a prime example of how good Aaron Cobb is at this, and I'm not just saying this because we're friends. He has a knack for fights. He knows who to put together. He knows what people want to see. He knows what fighters want to do. That was just, I guess, something that he had in mind. I don't know. Maybe people have been talking about it for a long time. I know, to me, it seems like a great matchup. Now, we talked about as hard as you work, and I know how hard you work. I know this, and just capitalizing on something you said earlier about what all your mom does to help out. Look, I want to go on record to say your mom is a saint. I've known your mom for a lot of years. I taught mortgage servicing classes for Bank of America out at Sykes, and I had her in class. I had your mom in class. She was an absolute delight to be around. I don't remember what she made for the potluck, so I can't say she's a great cook, but I can imagine she is. I don't know where you got your cooking skills from, but we know you're not a good cook. But
no, I burnt. There was one time I cooked ramen noodles and I forgot to put the water in it and I burnt it. Like, that's how bad.
Yes, I mean, golly, I had a wife who thought that the smoke detector was an oven timer. I mean, this lady could literally set water on fire. I never saw anything like it in my life, and in fact, one of the reasons why I'm single now is because I hate macaroni and cheese, and that's about all she ever served was macaroni and cheese. You want some frozen chicken nuggets? And she would put them on a plate frozen. No, I don't want frozen chicken nuggets. So that's just one of those things that we have to go through in life. But, your mom's a great lady, and I'm glad to hear that she's helping you out. Now, you are working a lot. You're working a lot of hours. In a factory. I don't know if you can say where you work. You don't even have to go into that. Sometimes it's best if you don't, but you do work in a factory. You drive a forklift out there. Is that right?
Yeah, I drive a forklift, order picker. I kind of just do a little bit of everything. We handle motors. So basically what I do is I'm in the warehouse distribution, so I'm picking up, 200-pound motors for 8-12 hours a day. That's basically my whole job.
And so we see you busting ass in a factory, working as much overtime as you can, because obviously we talked about you being a single dad and having two beautiful babies to support. And, you're juggling that, work and being a single dad and now fighting again, and you're coming back to the cage. Do you think you're mentally prepared for this coming up?
Oh, yeah, I'm not coming home with a loss. That's not going to happen. That's not an option.
Yeah.
I think that this is going to be like like my favorite fight that I've had, but I do not plan on losing.
I was fixing to ask you, what's your favorite fight that you've had so far? And I'm glad you said this is probably going to be the one. But before the deal with Jeremy Green, what fight has stuck out to you the most?
It was the one with Keith, and it was the one where I was getting whooped for pretty much 2.5 rounds, and then I pulled off an arm bar, and his arm popped, and he finally tapped out, and I was just thinking to myself, thank God. But I was more proud of myself that night than I was in any other fight, because my first fight I got knocked out of the night. My second fight I got a submission in 20 seconds, got the guillotine. But that one was the one that stuck out to me the most. That I kind of proved to myself that I can take the hits, I can take the punishment, and still pull through.
Yeah, that's what I was talking to Jeremy about. I don't know if you got to hear that, but I talked about the fact that you're the kind of guy that can take an absolute licking. Not that you always do, but if you need to, if that's part of your strategy, you could take a licking and then pull something out of your back pocket. Now let me go back to the one that I mentioned, the fight that I mentioned that you just kind of touched on. The guillotine choke. From a spectator's point of view, yes, I was working with XFI then. However, I was standing cage side. I don't remember. I think that's almost the night when the Mexicans and the Redneck Fight Club just about completely had an explosion on each other. And so I was real close to the cage, and I watched you. This is just I've still got it in my mind. This is just from an observation. I watched you basically pick this guy up off the ground by his throat with your forearm. I mean, you were wrenched. I mean, you had this guy in a guillotine like I've never seen before. But he didn't. It was almost like he was trying to say this ain't working. And so the more he said this ain't working, which he wasn't really saying it with his mouth, but the more he said this ain't working, I just saw you wrenching up and up and up and bending your back and pulling up, and your back was against the cage at that point. And it was like this kid was almost off the ground, and you got that. I mean, it didn't take that long at all. I knew it was under a minute, but I didn't know it was in 20 seconds. But I thought, oh, my God. I thought we were going to have to I thought the kid's spine was severed. I didn't know what. I thought you pulled his brainstem completely out. But it was disgusting. But, I know what you're capable of. And we've seen things like that. We've seen what you can do in the cage. Are you back to the old beast when you're coming back on December 16th? Do you think you still got some of that beast left in you, or is this a new Michael Priest that we're going to see?
I'm a lot stronger. My cardio's a lot better. My stand-up's a lot better. Definitely not like it was in that fight with Keith. I've been working a lot of stand-up. I think I'm going to be at least 3 times better than I was whenever I last fought.
How important is your cardio at this point when coming into a fight like this? How important is your cardio?
It's extremely important because I know from just training with Jeremy that Jeremy has amazing cardio. Like, he can go 100% the entire 2 hours of training, and he still looks like he's okay to go. So that's what I've been focusing on for the last month is just cardio, and, just working on that because I know that he can go easily to 3 3-minute rounds.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Both of you guys can. And I would like to note for the record that we just passed 300 live listeners. We have 307 right now. So, that's a big audience. I mean, a lot of people don't think that's big. A lot of people are like, well, you need like 60,000 people listening to you. No, you don't. That's huge. 307 people to be sitting around on a Wednesday night listening to a brand new podcast and to listen to crazy stories that I'm telling and listen to old fights. I know people love reminiscing. People love listening to the fights of the past, and they want to see just what you and Jeremy are going to bring into the cage. I'm excited about this, man. I'm seriously excited. I haven't seen local MMA in a long time. When I got burned out, I just kind of left the scene and never came back. I mean, I had a lot of stuff going on in my life, too. In 2014, 2015, that was my 2017. 2017's been great for me, man. I mean, a lot of people, we've, and I deserve it. My God, I've gone through nothing but crazy hell for a long time, and having to fight off completely ridiculous accusations just because I want everybody to hate him and blah, blah, blah. We know what that's like, having a stupid ex. But, it sometimes it gets out of hand, and 2015 was my 2017, and so I'm glad that's behind me. And but we see a lot of people going through a lot of changes, and I'm glad to see guys like you and Jeremy coming out on top here and getting back in the cage. So with this fight coming up, tell everybody a little bit about what they can expect to see on December 16th. I mean, what type of crowd are we looking at here? I mean, do you know anything about ticket sales? Have you gotten any information about that? I mean, who else do you know that's on the fight card?
I know that Tyler Jones, one of my training partners, is fighting Dan Casper again. That's the main event, I believe. And then we've got Sammy Rogers is fighting Matt Howell. Jonathan Gooch, which is a guy that I'm still friends with, but we actually fought back in I can't remember, it was like 2012 or something like that. He's fighting Brody Shipley, so that's going to be a good, interesting fight. I didn't really pay attention to the rest of them, but yeah, I mean,
we're gonna talk about them later. Don't worry. I mean, I've got the fight card in front of me, minus any changes that I don't know about yet. I've got the fight card in front of me. So before we get off the show, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I want to mention real quick, I think United States Martial Arts Hall of Famer Greg Squirrel called into the show a minute ago. And so if he's listening, Michael, I'm going to let you get back to your night here in just a couple of minutes. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about some of the things, the events and the ticket prices and things like that. So I'm hoping if Greg Squirrel is still listening, maybe he'll call back in. But I think I remembered his number after all these years. I remembered seeing his number in the switchboard, and then it popped up a second ago. So, and that's another thing. I don't know who we're going to see as a ring announcer. I'm going to tell you right now, I was down in Poto last night, and I heard a guy on the microphone, and basically I just thought, this is one of the most charismatic announcers I've ever heard in my life. And I went up to this guy, and I said, dude, what is your name? And he told me his name, and I've got it sitting over here right next to me. I don't know if he wants me talking about him right now. But I heard his name come out of his mouth, and I thought, that's a catchy name. And I said, what is your phone number? And he was like, who the hell are you? So, no, he didn't say that. But he did write his phone number down. I got his number. I sent it to the promoters at Soares Hell Entertainment, and I said, hey, here's another name, because I know they're looking for a ring announcer. So I don't even know who we're going to see as far as the ring announcer goes. And, of course, Greg Squirrel is always one of those potential names if anybody needs a ring announcer. Greg Squirrel is a United States Martial Arts Hall of Famer for ring announcing. And we've seen him. We saw him come down with XFI a few times, and we've seen him. God, he's been all over the country ring announcing. So if Greg Squirrel will get his ass back on the show, we can promote him a little bit. But now, what are you doing tonight? You going to work about 10 o'clock or something? Is that right?
Yeah, I go to work at 10:45 at night. I get off about 9 o'clock in the morning, and then whenever I get off from there, I just go straight to the gym till about 1 o'clock, and then I head home and try to get some sleep.
That is hardcore, man. I mean, and for people to say Michael Priest doesn't train, that's we had so many, I don't know, just stupid people on that status talking about everybody else's lives and everybody's an expert and blah, blah, blah. And then I had some pill-smoking crackhead want to start in on me like he knows something between all of his binges.
I've seen that.
Yeah, I mean, for somebody to sit there and say that Michael Priest doesn't train, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's not ready for this, are you going to prove these people wrong?
Yes, I mean, everybody's going to see a whole new Michael out there. I'm definitely not coming home with the loss, and they're going to see that I've been training this entire time.
Good. Well, I tell you what, before we let you get, because I know you're probably in a position where you're going to feed the kids dinner and probably put them to bed, and then you got to get off to work. So I know what your night's going to consist of. But before we let you get back to that, do you have any shout-outs you want to give friends, fans, family, anybody out there?
I'd like to give a shout-out to my mom, Linda Miller, Linda Catano now, and my stepdad, Fred, and then my dad, Joseph Priest. They've just been amazing helping me out. And Chance Farley, Tyler Jones, Colton Ham, Sammy Rogers, and Nico K. They've been great training partners. They're pushing me, every day in the gym. They've been helping me out in my life, too, so I want to give a shout-out to them. They've all been great.
That's perfect. Well, Michael Priest, man, I love you like a brother, even though you're a lot younger than me. But, and I wish you nothing but the best. And, we always talk on Facebook, and we're going to keep doing that. So with that being said, I'm going to let you get back to your night. So I appreciate you coming on the show, and we are going to see you at Fort Smith Fight Night at the Convention Center at 7 p.m. Well, probably not right at 7 p.m., but December 16th, 17 days away, or 18 maybe. I don't know. I'm not good at counting. But we're going to see you here in a few days, a couple of weeks, and so we're looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. We'll talk to you later. Folks, that is Michael Priest, the Beast, Michael Priest. And you heard him right here on the Fort Fights podcast, right here on blogtalkradio.com. We're brought to you by todayinfortsmith.com, presented by Sore as Hell Entertainment, and sponsored by Southern Trading and Pawn. They are at 4621 Towson Avenue in Fort Smith at the corner of Towson and Phoenix. Go see Vernon and his barbershop quartet. They might even sing to you. Or call them at 479-434-4830. Speaking of singing to you, you know who else will sing to you? The Violet Hour. The Violet Hour. They will sing to you. You can find them online at theviolethour.band.com. If you've been listening since the beginning of the show, that was exactly 1 hour ago. It is now 7:01 in the p.m. or 1900 for those of you who know how to count past 12. You heard Insatiable by The Violet Hour. Go to theviolethour.band.com. They've got some booking information on there if you want to book them for a party or a big event, whatever you want to do. Sore as Hell Entertainment might even want to have them come out and play live. I don't know if they're into that type of stuff. Sore as Hell people out there. I don't know if they want to have a band come out, but if you do, I don't even know if they've got any dates open. That's how busy the Violet Hour has been, and I value these people as friends. Jake Gibson, the drummer, he just had a birthday. He and is that his wife, his girlfriend? I don't know. I'm going to have to get some details. They host a podcast on Sunday nights, and it is hilarious. This chick who hosts this show with Jake, she is so funny. I don't know. I just haven't heard. I haven't been around a female that funny in a long time. You guys know I usually wind up with the women who are just completely dry and have no sense of humor at all. But this chick is hilarious, and so you can listen. It's a Wired Insomnia podcast. Let me bring up my email. Screw that. I'm just going to promote them real quick. That's how we do on todayinfortsmith.com. We promote. I know the guys at Sore as Hell Entertainment on soreashell.com. They do a lot of promoting too. That's what they're doing right now. They're promoting MMA. Local MMA, you've got to support local MMA. But let me go down to this. I know I saw this on an email. I got an email with a bunch of songs from the Violet Hour. And I'm going to read it to you without sounding like I'm reading it. Tune in to the Wired Insomnia podcast every night at 8:30 p.m. Central with your host, Jake Gibson, drummer for the Violet Hour. Join the live chat on Spreaker.com/user/Jake11231986. That is the Wired Insomnia podcast. I'm telling you, it's hilarious. 8:30 on a Sunday night. If you've got nothing to do, some folks are just returning home from church, or if you're like me, that's usually about time you hit the bed on a Sunday night. When I was a kid, they used to have shows like Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, so I can't watch that anymore because that's been long gone. So my Sunday nights are pretty free these days. But yeah, I mean, it's a great thing. You listen to the podcast. They talk about all different kinds of subjects. It's not just about music, although there is a lot that has to do with music. So you can listen to the Wired Insomnia podcast on Spreaker.com with Jake Gibson. He is the drummer for the Violet Hour Band, and you can find them at theviolethour.band.com. So we're talking about Sore as Hell Entertainment. We got the Veterans Benefit Concert. I don't know why it's been a tongue twister for me tonight. The Veterans Benefit Concert coming up. We've got Brooke White and The Ritual, plus 357. We've got them coming out. That's on Friday night, December 15th, 2017, at the Fort Smith Convention Center. Doors open at 6:30 p.m. The concert will begin promptly at 7. No, it won't. You guys know that. It'll probably start a little bit before or a little bit after. Nothing ever starts on time, but that's why we show up, because we love it. For tickets, you can call 479-653-8554. or 479-251-0808, or visit soreashell.com. Or here's another option. Go to facebook.com in your search bar, type in Today in Fort Smith and like the page. Or you can go to todayinfortsmith.com/events. We got everything promoted right there. You can see Travis Smith, Sammy Rogers, Jake Constant. We've got promo videos of these guys on todayinfortsmith.com/events. Those three guys are probably headed there right now if they're listening live. We have 319 people listening live as we speak. Also, the next thing we're talking about is Fort Smith Fight Night right after the Veterans Benefit Concert, the night after. We've got, I imagine, I don't know, I haven't talked to anybody about this yet. I'm going to have to find out for a fact, but maybe weigh-ins are the same night as the concert. They may just have the whole, there may be a whole shooting match there. I don't know how that's going to go down. I'll have to get some extra details. But after the concert, if I know those guys coming off of weigh-ins, they're probably going to go to Golden Corral or Furs or something like that and stuff their faces and get some carbs back in their bodies. I know they've been working hard, cutting weight. They're probably cutting weight as we speak. This is the last couple of weeks before Fort Smith Fight Night. That all goes down on December 16th at the Fort Smith Convention Center. Doors open at 6:30. Fights start at 7. General admission ticket, $30. Ringside, cage side, $50. VIP tables right now are still available as far as I know. And there's my phone going crazy again. We're getting some feedback. I appreciate the feedback while we're live. It's always a good thing to have feedback. The fights are brought to you by Ward Brothers Roofing, River Valley CrossFit, Stonehouse at Chaffee Crossing, Saki Sushi Martini Bar, Bike Works in Fort Smith. Come get you some off-road and performance. You can call them at 479-782-MUDD, M-U-D-D. Also, Family Combat Fitness and MMA. Brian Foster and his crew out there. We love those guys and ladies. Also, Metro PCS T-Mobile and Kevin Clifton Real Estate, your local market experts. That's who's putting on the fights. That's a ton of sponsors, man. I'm glad to see so many people involved. It's important to support local MMA. It's very, very important. I'm going to cut this off for the night. I mean, we've got a 2-hour show scheduled. It's nothing for me to go an hour and 6 minutes, which is where we're at currently right now. But I want to say thank you to everybody who has listened. 319 people listening live on a Wednesday. It is Wednesday, right? Yeah, because SmackDown was on last night. So Law & Order SVU should be coming on here in about an hour. That's my jam on a Wednesday night. And this is the Fort Fights podcast. We are on blogtalkradio.com, brought to you by todayinfortsmith.com. I can't stress enough how important Today in Fort Smith is. Go to Facebook, type in Today in Fort Smith, like that page. The first post that you'll see pinned to the top, we're giving away a beautiful watch, like a diamond bar watch or something. I can't remember what it's called. But the criteria to win this contest, it's actually a second chance deal. We had a lady who won the watch. We couldn't get a hold of her. We reached out to her a couple times. We never could reach her. Sometimes that happens, and that's okay. I'm sure she's a great lady. But the watch is back up for grabs again. We've got that big giveaway going on. We know it's after Black Friday, so everything's not on sale anymore. But we have this Diamond Bar watch that you can win absolutely free. All you have to do is like the page, like the status, share the status. You can tag people on it for extra entries. Go to Today in Fort Smith on Facebook, or just type in facebook.com/today and then the letters NFS. All right? Or you can go to todayinfortsmith.com, type that in. We've got your mugshots page. We do the mugshots every morning. I'm probably going to be up all night. Might get a little bit of a nap later, but I'll be up all night doing mugshots from the Sebastian County Adult Detention Center. I know that appeals to a lot of people. There's a lot of traffic that comes off of that stuff. And so todayinfortsmith.com is the fastest-growing local news media outlet. Well, we don't talk about stories from Australia. We don't talk about some inmate in Chicago getting a $1 million settlement for rolling off a top bunk. We don't talk about that stuff. We don't do the news from 100 miles away. We're not sitting in Owasso, Oklahoma. We're not sitting in Little Rock. We're not sitting in Chinook, Kansas. We're not doing all that stuff. We're not sitting down in Texas talking about what's going on in the River Valley. We were born and bred here. We live and breathe the air in Fort Smith, and this is who we are, and this is what we do. So you're always going to find the Fort Fights podcast on todayinfortsmith.com, on blogtalkradio.com, and we will have this podcast episode. We will rebroadcast this on todayinfortsmith.com. I will have a feed up on the events page right underneath the posters. As soon as we get off here, I'm going to start working on this. I'm going to have a feed up, a live feed that's going to play this over and over. I'm probably going to try to play this at some point tomorrow evening. Might even do it in the afternoon. So you'll just have to go to todayinfortsmith.com/events. And that's where you can find all this information, folks. We're talking about Sore as Hell Entertainment. We're talking about Fort Smith Fight Night. That is on December 16th, 2017. That's coming up. Hell, they're already playing my music. That means that the producers are about to kick me out of the studio for the night. We are in the todayinfortsmith.com studios, by the way. That's where we do this. And, well, I'm going to take you out with a little bit more of the Violet Hour. We're going to listen to the Violet Hour Band. You can find them on the violetourband.com. on the World Wide Web. And until we do this again, I will keep everybody posted on Facebook and on todayinfortsmith.com about the next podcast. And until we do that, my name is Clint Davis. You've all been great. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.